Over the last 5 decades, if you were looking for the ultimate British luxury SUV, you were looking at a Land Rover Range Rover. This vehicle has been a huge part of the Land Rover staple for over 50 years, and for 2023, there's an all-new 5th generation model, now completely redesigned, even though it doesn't look like it on the outside. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you here is a 2023 Land Rover Range Rover long wheelbase P400 SE. A mouthful for sure, and what that basically means is the SE is more of the baser trim. We have nearly 400 horsepower under the hood from a turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine, and because this is the long wheelbase model, it now has a 3rd row seat for the first time, so the Range Rover can now seat up to 7 people. So Land Rover has created again the ultimate luxury SUV, and the big question I want answered, has the company managed to once again set the benchmark in this lofty segment? Stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, before we get started with the video, I want to tell you about this amazing opportunity where you could win a brand new Tesla Model 3 SXY Cybertruck whenever the company decides to bring that out to market. Or if you don't like Teslas at all, you can also win up to $50,000 in cash while supporting a great cause like the Chicago Chesed Fund. Now, what exactly is the Chicago Chesed Fund? Well, they've been around for over 35 years and have over 80+ programs servicing the Chicagoland area. They've weathered many storms with the community and are always at the front line to provide any kind of relief. They provide help in the forms of goods and services from food pantry to job assistance, mental health referrals, help navigating government programs, fertility treatments, and so much more. Now, for those of you who are interested in supporting a great cause and winning one of these fantastic prizes, you can go to ccsraffle.com, and for a limited time only for all you Redline Reviews fans out there, you can use the code word Redline and you can save up to $25 off of your purchase of 2 tickets or more. Now, the official drawing for this raffle is going to take place on Labor Day. That's Monday, September 5th, 2022. That's coming up in about 2 weeks, so I urge you guys to hurry up and enter for your chance to win and support a great cause. And the beauty about this raffle is only 9,999 tickets are going to be sold. So basically, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of winning one of these great prizes and supporting a great cause like the Chicago Chesed Fund. So what are you waiting for, guys? Please be sure to click in the link in the description below, use the code word Redline, and enter for your chance to win and support a great cause. And now, let's get back to the video. Now, before we talk about the new exterior styling or new exterior styling, I want to show you guys what's underneath the hood of the new Range Rover. Now, in typical Land Rover fashion, there are a plethora of new engines. However, this model here, the P400, is the base engine and it should have enough power for most people. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Land Rover products, this is the company's Ingenium 3-liter turbocharged inline 6. It's a straight 6-cylinder engine that's augmented by a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So instead of a alternator and starter, it replaces that with a starter motor generator for a mild hybrid system. Basically, it allows this vehicle to have true start-stop capabilities where it's very smooth, it's very seamless, and it'll also continue to power the accessories when the engine is off. Now, the output numbers are pretty much the same as every other Land Rover product, 395 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, and of course, it's a Range Rover. 4-wheel drive is going to be standard with a low-range transfer case, and you also have locking front and rear differentials. So this has true off-road capability and, of course, that all-weather traction. This particular engine here is rated to get 18 in the city and 26 on the highway. Now, later this year, Land Rover will introduce a P440e, which is a plug-in hybrid version of this car, which has roughly a 31.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It allows you to go up to 48 miles of range on all electric, which would make it the top in the class for plug-in hybrid vehicles. And that model will have 434 horsepower. If you guys don't want to wait for the plug-in, you can also go for the P530, which has a 4.4-liter BMW-sourced V8, making 525 horsepower paired with an 8-speed auto. This is the base engine. Land Rover says you should get to 60 in 5.8 seconds. You'll have a top speed of 150 miles an hour, and this vehicle will still tow a maximum of 7,700 pounds. The V8 will tow about 8,300 pounds, and this longer wheelbase model roughly weighs about 400 pounds more than the standard wheelbase. So as this one sits, it weighs in at around 5,600 pounds. But let's go ahead and close the hood, and you can see the styling of the new Range Rover is definitely very evolutionary. It's amazing to me how this design language came out almost 10 years ago, and it still looks very good today. Land Rover basically had a theme for this new Range Rover, and that's very simplistic, very flush. If you look at the front fascia, the design is very refined, but it's also a little bit more squared off. You can see you have the signature full LED headlights. These are the pixel LED headlights, not the upgraded ones. You have just a 2 LED diode. If you guys go for $500 extra, you'll get an upgraded 4 LED diode. You can see it's got the signature LED daytime running light, an LED turn signal, and then you also have LED fog lights down here. The grille, as you can see, I just like how it's like very flush. It just very tastefully spells out Range Rover in the hood of the vehicle, and everything, nothing really sticks out. It's very aerodynamic in terms of its design. Down here you can see more of that silver trim, which you can also get a black package that'll black out the the satin nickel finish in the front fascia. And you can see there are some active grille shutters as well, and then there's some well-integrated parking sensors, and you have a full 360 camera. This particular one here, this gray color, is about $2,000 extra. It's a very beautiful looking gray. Land Rover offers several different colors, although I would like to see the company offer some brighter colors, but on the Range Rover they tend to do a little bit more in terms of neutral colors. Now looking at the side profile, you can see this vehicle got an increase in overall length and wheelbase compared to the previous generation by about 3 inches. The long wheelbase model is around 207 inches long. That's right, this vehicle is almost the same length as something like the standard wheelbase Lincoln Navigator or Cadillac Escalade. It's about 8 inches longer than the short wheelbase model, which is, again, the only way you can get the third row is by going with the long wheelbase version. It certainly is very well proportioned. Honestly, I didn't even notice this was the long wheelbase version until I saw the third row at the back. There is no indication really, and it just looks very well integrated. Now I know some models will include a little L badge at the back window to show that it's the long wheelbase model. This SE version does not have that. Now my tester has a very pricey option. $3,800 buys you these massive 23-inch alloy wheels. That's right, these are a 23-inch wheel. I also have the optional black painted calipers here for all 4 corners. This vehicle is riding on 285 40 series R23 tires. These are Pirelli P0 all-season tires. Obviously, if you're going to be going off-road, this is not the tire you're going to want or the wheel that you want. Land Rover also offers a smaller 21-inch wheel, but in all honesty, you're not going to be taking a vehicle off-road that far when you have sidewalls that are this skinny. You've got a 4-wheel independent suspension. The rear suspension's been completely redesigned, where this vehicle now incorporates rear wheel steering, and this is with the suspension set in its normal setting. You get 8.6 inches of ground clearance. If you jack it up all the way to its off-road 2 height, it'll increase the ground clearance to 11.6. So it'll increase the ride height by 3 inches, which again gives you that ride height that you need if you guys plan to take this vehicle off-road. Now there's this really interesting little nickel detail here on each of the door panels. On the autobiography trim, it'll actually say the trim level autobiography right there. My tester also has black painted side mirrors with integrated turn signals. You have this black painted A-pillar here, and then my tester also has the color matching roof. You can also get a black roof, and then I also have the panoramic glass roof that opens up, which is really nice. And then there's one thing, one detail of styling I want to show you guys on the new Range Rover. If you look here, there's a completely flush area here where the door panel meets the window. I've never seen that before. This is going to be great for aerodynamics. Most of the times cars will have kind of like this rubberized piece here that connects the window and the door panel together. Not so with the Range Rover. They went with a completely flush design along with the flush door handles. These pop in and out, of course, when the vehicle is locked or unlocked. Land Rover says they've put the strongest door motor or pop-out door handle motor in the industry because, again, they're expecting you to drive these in colder climates, and if there's a thick sheet of ice over this, it'll pop the door handle out so you don't have to deal with de-icing the car. Now under here on the side skirt, you can see there's a black painted area that's going to be black painted on all the trims. Land Rover says they did that to kind of give this vehicle a little bit more visual height and raise the vehicle up. You're not going to notice it as much on this dark gray finished car. And then, as you can see, as we get in toward the rear, this is where you're going to notice the most changes in the design. The rear taillights are completely redesigned, and you can see the vehicle is on right now, and it shows like a red LED here. If the vehicle is completely off, it just shows a completely black portion there. The taillights, Land Rover says they had to use the brightest LEDs in the industry to allow it to kind of show through the black paint. So if you guys really like that blacked out taillight look, the Range Rover already comes like that from the factory, which is definitely interesting. You can see the turn signal. I have it on this side. You can see LED turn signal. This is also the brake light, so when it's lit up here, it's very bright. You can see through it very clearly. You can see, again, a lot of that minimalistic design is carried over where it just says Range Rover and Land Rover. I like how Land Rover was very, discreet with the badging. Down here on the lower rear diffuser, you can see that's where your reverse light is. It's LED. It's got well integrated parking sensors again. And then the rear wiper, Land Rover also has been great at this. It's completely hidden underneath the rear spoiler, and there's the third brake light. So it's a very clean design, very elegant. It just makes the car look very stately, but also very recognizable as a Range Rover. Now opening up the trunk area, you can see the split tailgate remains. So if you guys have had your eye on the new Lexus LX 600, but it sadly lost the split tailgate, Land Rover still gives you that feature, which is nice. Push this button here, you can see this basically allows for you to have like a little tailgate step if you guys plan to do lots of tailgating, or if you have stuff back here. I like how it won't fall out when you open up the tailgate because this area here stays nice and up to keep stuff from falling out. You can see with the third row, there isn't really much space back here. Land Rover says you get around 8.7 cubic feet of stuff, which is definitely not a lot. You can see underneath here, there's a nice little underfloor storage. Well, not really underfloor storage. This is mostly used as a partition. You can put stuff that's like wet or dirty over here, but I really love these like adjustable straps here. You can kind of move this back and forth if you want to put like wine bottles here, or maybe some grocery bags. You can kind of wedge into this area. It also provides some separation because, as you can see, this is very sturdy. It doesn't move very well, but it also has a neat trick where you can actually lift this up and fold it the other way. This basically allows you to kind of have like a backrest when you're sitting on the actual tailgate. I'm not entirely sure how much weight this will hold. I believe it's like 350 pounds, but you can see it's very sturdy. If you want to use this as a backrest, you kind of have to push these little buttons to the side. That'll actually unlock the tailgate. And then the third row here, if you want to fold that down, there's actually two buttons here. You push this button and you can see it actually will electrically fold the third row down. And it creates a completely flush floor back here. Now, if you want to fold down those third row, you can see the second row moves a little bit. This gives you 43.7 cubic feet of space, which is, again, a very good amount. If you want to fold down the second row, there's a button back here again. It's electrically folding. I wouldn't expect anything less from a Land Rover product. And when you do that, this expands the cargo capacity out to 93.7 cubic feet of space. 93.7 is about 10 more than the short wheelbase model. It makes it, again, one of the more roomier entries in the segment. And I also like how everything is nice and flush. There's really high quality carpeting back here, and it's just gonna make for a really damn practical car. So the exterior of the new Range Rover may not look all new. However, the interior is really where a lot of luxury buyers truly care about. But before we hop into the inside, I want to show you guys the key fob for the car. You can see this is the typical Land Rover Intelligent Access key. It's a very heavy, sturdy feeling key, and I believe you can also use the Land Rover app to also access the key or access the vehicle with your smartphone, but this model here does not have remote start on the fob. Most people are getting rid of that anyways, going to the actual smartphone to access the remote start. Now, as you can see, this is what the door handles basically retracted in, and the mirrors are folded in. That's how you know the vehicle is locked. You can also set the vehicle to where, as I approach the car like a BMW, it'll unlock the vehicle, and as I walk away, it'll lock the car. I don't have that set up right now, but basically if you push that button, you can see the door handle pops out. There's even a standard key insert there in case the power is out, where you could also unlock the vehicle manually. Pull open the door, and you can see the gray exterior of my Tester is complemented by this beautiful kind of dark caramel, or this warm caramel colored full leather interior. My Tester has the optional heated, cooled, and massaging front seats with the extended leather. These are a 24-way power adjustable seat. You can see the headrest also allows you to kind of adjust it to where it's like an airplane headrest, where it's like a little pillow in first class. The seats, the leather itself feels so comfortable and supple. The heated and ventilated seat works well. The massaging seat works well. You can see with the extended leather upgrade, you also have full leather stitching along the door panel. You have this nice little walnut wood trim here, where it's kind of like an unfinished look, an open pore look, and you can see metal trim completely surrounding the door panel here, and it's even like leather stitch on the inside of this door pocket, and then full leather down here. I love the Range Rover side plate there, along with the real metal trim. And then here with the air suspension set in the normal mode, it's really easy to get in and out of this vehicle. My Tester also has the 17-speaker Meridian sound system. It's missing the upgraded 35-speaker system, which will include headrest speakers with noise cancellation, but the 17-speaker system already sounds pretty damn good on its own. Now, getting inside this vehicle, you can see nice, easy step-in height. You can also lower it into an access mode, or if you want, you can also jack it up into its off-road mode. And you can also get a power deploying running board. As I get in and shut the door has a soft close feature. I wouldn't expect anything less from a vehicle with this kind of price tag. Or if you want to slam it, it has a nice solid sounding thunk, which again, expect that when you're paying this kind of money. Now, there's a start-stop button here right by the shifter. So once you turn it on, you can see it doesn't have the traditional starter noise because this model here it is a mild hybrid. So basically, because it's a mild hybrid, you don't have that traditional starter noise. Let me go ahead and crank up the AC in this car. It takes a second for it to come on. I had it turned off earlier, and I have to say, it's very, very hot out here, so let's go ahead and get the AC cranking. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, I want to show you guys a lot of the differences, because if you guys have been in some of the newer Land Rover products, you're going to notice the completely redesigned screens. The dash has beautiful real leather stitching along the entire area. That's part of the extended leather upgrade for like another 1,600 bucks. And let me go ahead and turn the fan speed down so it's not super loud. And then you can see the steering wheel has been completely redesigned. It's got real, obviously high quality leather. You can also get an option to get wood. My tester is missing for 300 bucks the heated wheel. Don't really need that in the middle of summer here. But you can see it's got a 2-spoke design. It's a nice, feeling wheel. It's also got power tilt and telescoping functions, which I would expect at this price point. The power control is actually on the right side. That's always been a Jaguar Land Rover thing. And then you can see soft leather here, real aluminum trim, real leather here. My tester also has an advanced package that gives you the heads-up display. And then you can see here lots of nice, trim. It's all really well put together. It also smells really expensive in this car, and that's something that, again, you're going to expect when you look at a Range Rover. Now, in the instrument panel here, you can see there's a 13.7-inch full LCD display that is customizable. You can kind of go into here. You can also adjust the way this panel looks. This actually will change. This touch sensitive button will change based on what you have it selected. You can actually change it from the 2-dial to a full-on map display. You can see it'll put a GPS over there, which is great if you guys have an active GPS function open or displayed in the instrument panel. Or you can also go to this focus display, which will again put the speedometer front and center. It does get rid of the tach. My favorite view is probably going to be the 2-dial, because I like to have a tach when I have a gasoline powered vehicle. Over here on the center stack, you can see there's also a new 13.1-inch PV Pro infotainment system. This is their newest infotainment system that includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can see the display has a really cool look where it's actually floating above the dash here with some leather behind it. I kind of wish that Land Rover had made the display a little bit larger, like maybe a 15-inch display or something. There's room for it here where there's like space, unused real estate over here, but you can see it's kind of a curved display. It looks great. The graphics and the resolution are good. It has voice assistance where you can say things like, "Hey Land Rover." Or I guess it doesn't want to work right now. It was trying to work earlier, but over here you can see pushing that little block there shows all your different widgets and different accounts or settings you can go to. You can also go to the seat controls here. This is how you're going to activate the massaging seats. It's actually in the screen. I was really looking for a button over here, but you can see you have 3-person memory over here and just a single 2-piece control for adjusting the seats. If you want to adjust the seats a little bit more in depth, you have to go onto the screen here and go to adjust, where you can adjust the headrests, the shoulder area, the bolstering, the thigh extender, the lumbar. But if you want to go to the massage, you have to go over here. You have to turn on the massage, and then you can also hit that. And you can choose from 4 different types of massage, 5 different intensities, different levels. This is part of a $1,600 upcharge that my tester has. The massaging seats work well. I just wish that Land Rover had given us an actual on-off button for the massage on the actual door panel. Having to go to the screen is a little bit annoying, a little bit frustrating. You can see there's the heated and ventilated seat. You can also adjust that from here. If you push in, this goes to the seat control. Push in again, it goes to climate. Pull out, it goes to the fan speed. So again, it's 3 different controls in 1 dial, which takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it works fairly well. Being a Land Rover, there are typical cool little things in here, like you have vehicle dimensions where it shows you the exterior dimensions along with the ground clearance, the approach and departure angle, the breakover angle. You can also change it to meters or feet, depending on what mode you want it in, or what design, or imperial, or you want metric or whatnot. Over here, going back to that, you can see there's also a 4x4 eye control here that shows you your 4-wheel drive information. There's a weight sensing information. This vehicle will be able to forward a maximum of 32 inches of water, so just under 3 feet. It even has weight sensors to let you know if you're going too deep, which is really nice. There's also, TR info, that's the terrain response system. There's also a configurable one here where you're controlling it from this little dial, which I'll get to in a moment. There's a dynamic eye mode, which if you put it in this mode, this allows you to show your different sporty settings when you have it in dynamic. There's also a lap timer, a G meter, nobody's going to be using this in a vehicle that weighs almost 6,000 pounds. But again, it's all kind of neat stuff that Land Rover gives you. You can also adjust the cabin lighting in this vehicle, where you have multiple different colors of ambient lighting in this car, which it all looks pretty nice. You can also do a custom color. Land Rover doesn't do ambient lighting the way Mercedes or BMW or even Audi does, but it is nice that they're at least finally including stuff like that. Now, going back to the home display here, if you push the car icon, this is where you can adjust things like turning on and off the stability control, the engine start stop, the auto brake hold, and then you can also adjust the ride height over here. There used to be a separate switch here. Now it's actually in the screen. If I go to off-road, you can see it starts to jack the vehicle up into its off-road setting, where it can jack it up an extra 3 inches. Depending on whether you're in off-road 1 or in off-road 2, it also works fairly quickly. Here's what the embedded GPS, or actually, I'm sorry, that's what the GPS looks like for my phone. You can see there's the wireless CarPlay, whatnot. It's not going to actually let me go to the GPS, I guess, when it's connected to my phone. Or here we go to navigation here. It should take me there. The one thing I'm noticing about this system, now first of all, there's the Land Rover GPS. It's pretty quick and snappy and responsive. It works well. It's actually, this is a touch screen, but you now have to actually physically push into the screen. It has a proximity, or not a proximity, it has a response sensor where a haptic sensor, if I touch that, you can feel it, give you back feedback when you actually push the screen. And then again, I kind of wish that it was just a touch response, although you can use it as a touch screen when you're kind of swiping through your different style areas here. But if you actually want to select something, you have to actually push into the screen to where it actually gives you, that actual what you want to find. You actually have to use the haptic feedback on it. So kind of an annoyance that they added that. You can also change the sensitivity of it, but it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to. If you put the vehicle into reverse, there's your full backup camera. It's got full 360 camera. It's got off-road cameras. It has a camera washer as well. You can go into several different modes for the camera, and you can do a full 360 scan. It all works fairly well. You can also turn on and off that. There's also a 3D view, but for some reason it's not working. This vehicle also has automatic parallel parking and perpendicular parking. This is the shifter that controls the 8-speed auto. It's an electronic shifter. There's a P button here to go into park. There's your 4-wheel drive low switch. You can see there's actually an EV button here for the plug-in hybrid model, which my tester obviously doesn't have that. Going over here, you can see this is your different drive modes. There's a grass, gravel, snow. There's an eco mode. There's a sport mode. And then there's also a weight sensing mode. So again, all the usual stuff that you kind of expect in a vehicle of this caliber, which is definitely nice. And then over here on the center console, you can see, if you close this up, there's beautiful walnut wood trim with the matte finish, more of that walnut wood over the cup holder. There's also a little secret compartment here underneath this area that's honestly pretty deep. You can put a lot of stuff under there, which is great. Open this up, you can see deep center console area. My tester is missing the refrigerator. If you want to put a fridge under there or in here, it's an option if you'd like. There's nice sturdy leather covered lid over here, and then typical Range Rover, you have these adjustable armrests on each of the seats. So if you want to open this up, you're not going to get in the way of, or you don't need to have your passenger, or you don't need to move your elbow for an armrest. I love how Land Rover does that. These seats, like I mentioned earlier, are supremely comfortable and supportive. Love the headrest, how they have this kind of pillow that you can adjust similar to an airplane seat. And then if you want, you can also open up the dual glove boxes here. You can see there's the top glove box, and if you push the down arrow, there is the lower glove box. It's a bin style, it's stamped, it's lined with felt. And then above me, you can see here, really cool full digital rear view camera mirror display, which you can also do as a traditional mirror. And then you can see here just a woven material for the headliner, big panoramic glass roof that extends the entire way. And if you want, you can kind of close the rear shade and give you a little bit more sunshade or shade from the sun when it's a really hot day. But overall, the interior has everything that I expect from a new Land Rover product, and even has a couple of things that really surpassed my expectations. Love the full leather in this car. Love the way this vehicle feels and smells, and the tech also works fairly well. And if I had one gripe about it, I would say that Land Rover put too many of the controls into the touchscreen, in a way, or in the quest to make this interior feel a little bit more minimalistic. Hopping into the back seat of the new Range Rover, this is the long wheelbase model, so you can see the rear door is just massive. This is, again, stretching the wheelbase by about 8 inches compared to the short wheelbase model. And what you get back here in the second row is up to 40.5 inches of legroom back here, which again would put it near the top of the class. I really love how these seats are fully electric adjustable, and they're also heated and ventilated, which is definitely nice. You can see more of that beautiful leather and wood and aluminum carried over onto the back doors, with really great controls, power controls, with even memory settings for the back seat over here, which is something that I typically haven't seen. The beautiful carpet in the front is also extended into the rear of the vehicle. And then getting inside in off-road mode, it's a little bit harder to get in, but let me get in and go ahead and shut the door. It still has a solid sounding thunk, and this vehicle also has soft closed doors. Now getting back here, you can see just a ton of legroom back here, and I can also adjust the seat to move forward and back. This is with the seat all the way back with a recline function. And if you want, you can also open and close these manual these power retractable shades, which is controlled via the window switch here. If you want, you can also control both sides, or you can control the right side. This turns on and off the reading lamps. You can open and close the sunshade, and you can also mute the sound back here from a button, which is really cool, along with your own rear door lock switch. These storage pockets here, you can see, are nice size. They feel really high quality. And then you have rear seat air vents here with quad zone climate control. And like I said earlier, cooled seats even in the back row over here. So again, very, very amazing in terms of features. If you want to do the cooled seat, you actually have to, it's a little finicky. You have to push in again there, and it takes a second for it to give you the cooled seat. But again, once you kind of get used to it, it works fairly well. You do have a full-on power outlet underneath here, along with USB-C charging ports. There's also an armrest that folds down and gives you cup holders. If you open this up, you can see there's just a little bit of storage. Cup holders. You can also get captain's chairs in this vehicle if you'd like on the upper trims. And then you can see here the headrests, they do allow you to adjust in certain ways. You also have rear seat air vents up here on the roof panel. So again, the second row is practically as nice as the first row. But let me get into the third row, because this is a new feature this year. Land Rover makes it simple. You basically just push this little down button here. Push it once and it'll electrically fold. Well, first of all, it'll move the driver's seat out of the way. And you can see here, the seat stays in place. So if you have a child seat here, you don't need to remove it, or a booster seat, which is definitely nice. I love how Land Rover did that. And then when you can see, getting into the third row here, it gives you a pretty good amount of space to get back here. But let me go ahead and climb into the third row, which the third row itself is only wide enough to accommodate 2 people. But you can see here, this is with the seat all the way back. And I actually, you know, my knees aren't touching, they're pretty close to it. If I sit all the way back here, my head actually does come up to the ceiling. So I'm not the tallest person, so headroom is definitely a little bit tight back here. For somebody who's over 6 feet, you probably don't want to sit back here. But in terms of the third row legroom, I am surprised at how good it is because of the flat floor. There are rear seat air vents back here, which is something that I've seen missing in some competitors. There's actually even leather in the third row here. So there's full leather here, padding over here, beautiful, nice carpet. So it's really nicely finished even back here. And then you can see here, this is where you can adjust the seat, where if you want to have it come back, you can basically push this button over here. It'll allow the seat to come back. There's even a USB-C charging port over here, which is great. And you also have third row heated seats, which is something that is a new feature that BMW, I remember, first put on one of their cars. But it's nice to see that Land Rover has also included third row heated seats with 3 levels. Obviously no cooled seats, but it's a great luxury touch to have. So overall, if you need to actually put adults into the third row, it's actually a really, you know, nice place to spend time, as long as you're under 6 feet tall, because the headroom is a little bit tight, but the headroom is surprisingly decent. All right, so here we are finally behind the wheel of the completely redesigned 2023 Range Rover, the 5th generation. It's been a few years since I've been behind the wheel of this car. Sadly, I wasn't on the media drive for this vehicle earlier this year in California, but I am very appreciative of Land Rover sending me the car very, very early. And this model here is the long wheelbase model, basically in the baser SE trim configuration in the P400 powertrain spec. There is also a plug-in hybrid that's coming. I probably would recommend going for the plug-in hybrid, although I haven't had a chance to drive it yet. It's only about a $4,000 price increase over the gas-only version that I'm driving here. And then, of course, there's also a V8 model for those of you who want a V8 in your Land Rover. But this has almost 400 horsepower. 0 to 60 should be right around 5.8 seconds. That's what Land Rover is claiming. We've got our 0 to 60 timing equipment here. Remember, the long wheelbase model that we're driving is nearly 400 pounds heavier, so that is going to affect the performance slightly. But let's go ahead and test out what we can get with this car. It's got basically 3/4 of a tank, although that doesn't really matter with a gas car. It's in sport mode right now. It's in dynamic. I'm going to turn off the stupid auto start stop, and then we're just gonna floor it basically. Really smooth engine, quick shifting 8-speed, 5.78 seconds there. So that's bang on with Land Rover's targets. And this practically matches the last Lincoln Navigator that I just tested, which I actually literally just had last week, which technically the Lincoln got 5.5 seconds. So The engine that you'll find in something like the Navigator has a little bit more power. This is matching something like the Cadillac Escalade with its 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. It is very good performance for something this big and something this heavy. And you gotta love the smoothness of an inline six. Now granted, I would still love to try out the V8. The inline six is perfectly fine. The V8 is going to give you that extra grunt that you're needing. I mean, I am noticing sometimes this car, it's smooth, but it also lacks a little bit of torque in certain conditions. But let's go ahead and try it again. Brake torque it. Dynamic launch activated. This thing does have launch control. Ooh, it shifts like hard from first to second. 6.08 there, so that's going slightly uphill, but again, 5.78 seconds is perfectly respectable for a base powertrain. You can't really ask for too much more. The whole point of this car, remember, isn't exactly straight line acceleration, although the Range Rover certainly gets out of its own way for something that weighs, 5,600 pounds. Now, what is amazing about the new Range Rover is the redesigned suspension. I mentioned earlier the new suspension allowed for Land Rover to package in four-wheel steering for the first time, and you definitely feel it in low speeds where it'll turn opposite direction. And higher speeds, you can kind of notice that the car changes direction so eagerly. The suspension also, in this mode here in Dynamic, gets a little bit firmer. In Comfort, I'll switch back to that later, it's super, super pillowy, which is what I expect. But even in Dynamic, I can still daily drive this car all day long in this mode. And it's not, I would say, like a super amazing handling vehicle. You're going to want to buy the Range Rover Sport if you want something that's a little bit sportier to drive. That's the whole point of the Range Rover Sport. This is certainly an excellent handling, excellent riding vehicle that has a great balance to it. The steering is pretty sharp, although it's very numb and devoid of feedback. The suspension soaks up those bumps, but also when the air springs are in its sport setting, it firms it up nicely so it doesn't have quite as much body lean. You still feel it, and you can feel the rear wheel steering of this car turning in the same direction at certain speeds. And then when I turn at lower speeds here, if I turn it this way, I can feel the rear tire turning, and it actually shortens the turning radius significantly. It feels a little weird, but here, this is where I'm noticing lack of torque a little bit. Obviously, if you're used to driving something that's much slower, this is going to feel perfectly fine. But for those of you who are coming from a V8 Range Rover, you're going to get into this and be wondering, okay, I got to go for the 4.4 liter V8, which I am looking forward to driving, hopefully, later this year. But we'll go ahead and switch the drive mode just into automatic. It'll go basically into Comfort if I push that little dial in, and then we'll switch the transmission back into drive. And you'll notice that the steering gets a little bit lighter, the suspension definitely gets a little bit softer. The transmission, the 8-speed, starts to seek out higher gears more often, so it basically will allow us to get better fuel efficiency. Here in this mode, I can really sense the back wheels are turning, and it shortens the turning radius. It makes it feel like a smaller car. The transmission definitely shifts a lot smoother in this mode. In Sport Dynamic, it can shift a little bit harsh, and I feel like it just shifts harsh just for the theatrics. I much prefer this driving style, this relaxed cruising. This is the whole point of a Range Rover. You sit up nice and high. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel like king of the road. I'm sitting here getting a massage in these 24-way heated and ventilated massaging front seats. For $1,600, they're steel. You gotta go for these massaging front seats. And I also like the new steering wheel. It's got this really nice, amazing feeling high quality leather. It's got real metal trim. I like the 2-spoke design. It also smells really expensive in here. You just get a sense that there's a certain snobbery you get with the Range Rover, and I think that's why so many people like it. I have to admit, I've had this car for a couple days. I like it a lot. I am super excited to drive the plug-in hybrid, the V8, and then remember, there's a full-on electric version of this car coming as well. It's really bringing the Range Rover into the 21st century and future-proofing it, because everything's going electric, but this is definitely a great first place to start. Now, the one thing I do want to mention this car has, surprisingly, is wind noise. There were certain times where I was on the highway, I was literally double-checking to make sure that the window wasn't down. But right now, I can hear a little bit of wind noise. Above 75 miles an hour, you really hear the wind noise tremendously. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I'm not sure if mine is a really early pre-production model, but that wind noise is certainly something that I noticed, and maybe it's because this interior is so damn quiet. I'm just hearing every other noise. Even the engine is so quiet. My tester is missing the upgraded 35-speaker Meridian sound system that includes the noise canceling portion in the headrest. My tester is missing that, so maybe that'll help to kind of cancel out the noise. Try it out for yourself, see the differences between the two audio systems. But overall, as a daily driver, as a luxury vehicle, this feels like the benchmark. It feels like the ultimate in British luxury SUV motoring. And I'm having trouble finding faults aside from the fact that it's expensive, aside from the fact that Land Rovers tend to not be the most reliable vehicle. In terms of fuel economy, I drove this out on the highway for about an hour and it got around 21 miles to the gallon in that condition. That was kind of a mixture of city and highway, to be honest. This is supposed to get 26 on the highway and the best I could do was about 24. So I imagine this model here only has like 1,100 miles on it. For something that's a little bit more, if you have one that's more broken in, you drive a little bit more conservatively. I suspect this will probably end up doing, you know, more than 25 mpg. Remember, this is a 48 volt mild hybrid system, so if you come to a stop, it'll actually shut the engine off early and allow you to kind of, you know, drive or run the electronics off of the engine, and it has its own little starter motor generator. But other than that, I am just floored. The new Range Rover, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be this good, and it gets me super excited to drive the other variants. And it really shows you that Land Rover, you know, even though the old one was still a really great car, they improved everything about the old one. And even though it doesn't look all that different, you're gonna notice the interior is so much different. It's much improved. The refinement is much improved. The fuel economy is gonna be improved. And I'm super excited to drive the all-electric versions. So although the previous generation Range Rover was definitely getting a little long in the tooth, the company did a really great job at keeping that model fresh. The styling of the old model was just very timeless, and carrying it over into the all-new Fit generation was very easy for Land Rover to do. This is going to have a very stately appearance. It's going to look very timeless for, again, the next 10 years. And after spending the full week driving this all-new Range Rover, it essentially, for me, sets the benchmark in this space. I mean, there are a lot of great competitors out there. There's the Cadillac Escalade, which for me is also the benchmark. There's the updated Lincoln Navigator and the all-new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. And then, of course, there's also competitors from Mercedes and BMW like the X7 and the GLS. But I have to say, the Range Rover still has a stately appearance to it. It still has a cult following, and there's a reason why British royalty tends to buy this vehicle and a lot of celebrities, because it's just such a damn good car. Even in the base SE P400 trim, I got 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. Even though it could use a little bit more low-end torque, that's what the electrified version is going to give you. That's what the V8 version is going to give you. And then remember, there's a full-on electric model that's coming. The infotainment system has been nicely updated with a 13.1-inch display with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It worked pretty flawlessly in my week's worth of testing. The seats are very comfortable. There's leather everywhere. There's wood everywhere. The interior has a ton of space. I was surprised, actually, how usable the third row is for somebody my height. Now, obviously, I wouldn't want to put my 6-foot friends in the third row, but for an average sized adult like me or children, it's going to, again, be able to accommodate all of that and basically give you the supreme comfort and luxury and technology that you expect from something that wears the Land Rover badge. My only gripe with this vehicle, or really my two gripes, is going to be the price of the car and, of course, the fact that Land Rovers don't have the most amazing reputation for reliability. But if you could afford a car like this, you're going to be basically buying it, leasing it, and giving it up when the warranty is up. And basically, when you want to buy this car, it's going to cost you a pretty penny, because Land Rover has jacked up the price by this vehicle by over $10,000 for this all-new Fit generation. It starts at $104,500 for the base SE P400 in the short wheelbase model. If you guys want the long wheelbase version, it's going to cost you another $6,000, $110,500 for my tester over here. Plus, with options, this one here with the wheels, with the upgraded leather, with the upgraded sound system in this vehicle and the paint color, this model here comes to $123,795, so just shy of 124 grand. It's actually on the cheaper end. If you guys want to go for the V8 models, the autobiography models, they can go over $150,000. And then the fully loaded long wheelbase SV version that has the basically executive seating where you treat this vehicle like you have a chauffeur driver, those can top over $200,000. So again, Land Rover has a huge stretch of pricing on options depending on how you want to choose this vehicle, which is basically what you expect from something that wears the Range Rover badge. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed overview on the all-new Fit generation Land Rover Range Rover. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.